Gamer back again with my old PS2 Game Want-List. Doing a little figuring, I realized that I probably made this list in probably about 2003 because there's some games I have on there, but I don't have their sequels on it. So this is where I was at about 2003 and what I wanted for the PlayStation 2. Don't ask me why I put some of these games on there. I don't know. Some of them may not be the greatest, or some were curiosities, or some I don't even think ever got released. So, with no further ado, like I did for the PS1, here is my old PS2 Game Want-List, circa 2003, in my gaming habits at that time. Alright, so I've got the list right in front of me, and I'm gonna go through it. So, don't you judge me for some of the choices I have on this list. I don't even know why. Anyway, so, first up, I have .hack Infection, .hack Mutation, and .hack Outbreak. I pretty much missed the boat on the .hack games. By the time I got to the PS2, I was pretty much RPG burnt out. I have almost 50 RPGs for the PS1, multiple RPGs for the Super Nintendo and Genesis. By the time I got to it, I mean, I'd pretty much burnt myself out, and the only one I've actually played from start to finish on the PS2, despite the fact that I own quite a number of them, is Final Fantasy X. I mean, I've started a bunch of them, I've played a bunch of them, but the only one I actually have seen through since, I mean, and it wasn't until 2011. That's how kind of burnt out for the better part of a decade. I mean, I probably have played through other RPGs since, 2000 and whenever I had it on since the PS1. But as far as PS2 RPGs, it was 11 years after the system released before I finally started one and finished it. So, and there's more .hack games, and I think they're pretty pricey by now, so I don't know if I'll ever decide to get them or not. Maybe someday. Okay, so 007 Nightfire. Don't ask me why I always do my really crappy Sean Connery impression. It's not sexy, and I'm not. Anyway, 007 Nightfire I crossed out because I own it. Crossed out Activision Anthology, which I own as well, where you can listen to all sorts of 80s music while playing your Atari games, your Activision Atari games. Crossed out The Adventures of Cookie and Cream, the lighter side of From Software, the makers of Demon's Souls and Kingsfield and Eternal Ring and Armored Core, and I've always loved From Software's games, but this game is best played with a friend. Definitely, you can play it with one controller, but it's kind of really hard to look up my videos on it or look up someone else's better videos on it. Anyway, so Aero Elite Combat Academy. Don't ask me why I put that on there. Maybe it was just a Sega game, but I guess I'll still keep it on the list. I haven't really played it and didn't play a lot of flight games in the PS2 era, and that's kind of when that whole genre kind of died on us. There's not a lot of, you remember the old Colony Wars or Rogue Squadron. I guess the GameCube did have Rogue Leader, and that was like the last big release for combat flight games. So, but since it's on my list, I guess we'll give it a try. There was obviously a reason why I wanted to play it. Let's see, I crossed out Aggressive Inline, Z-Axis, probably one of the best, extreme sports games out there on the PS2, one of the most underrated. I haven't played a ton of it, but there's a reason that Activision ended up buying Z-Axis and then, I guess disbanding them, because Z-Axis, they made Dave Mirra, they made Aggressive Inline, and they made a few others, and they were the best competitor to Tony Hawk. Honestly, I think I like some of their games better than I like the Tony Hawk games. Dave Mirra still way better than any Matt Hoffman game. Period. End of story. No arguments, okay? Anyway, but Aggressive Inline was also on the GameCube and the Xbox. Check it out, actually, if you remember the old Extreme Sports games, and it's got a lot of really cool conventions to it. Maybe one day, if I ever get a working PS2 again, I'll show some video footage, or maybe I'll just get it on the Xbox or GameCube or something. See, Amplitude I crossed out. I own it. Fun music game. Harmonix before. Guitar Hero fame. See, Ark the Lad, Twilight of Spirits I crossed out, and I also have one of the other ones. And again, I haven't really played through a lot of PS2 RPGs, but I collect them and buy them because I know, 10 years from now, whenever I get the RPG bug again or whatever, I don't feel like paying out the nose for all the RPGs, so I collected as many as I could, especially near the end of the PS2's lifespan, when games were the cheapest. Okay, so I crossed out Armored Core 2, found that in a little flimsy, bought it at GameStop in a cheapy bin, and it didn't even have like a jewel case or something. It was just in the little sleeve. I guess I still have Armored Core 2 Another Age to pick up, but crossed out Armored Core 3. If you've never looked into the Armored Core series, I did a review on Armored Core 2, which was actually the first one I had played through, despite owning the original and Project Phantasma on the PS1 for years before. I mean, I don't remember when I bought Armored Core 2, but I finished it, and I finished Armored Core 2 the very day that the PS4 launched in North America, so I don't remember when I got the original Armored Core or Project Phantasma, but probably over a decade before I finally played through one. Great series. Like the Gran Turismo of mech games, you get to customize everything, but check out my review on that if you haven't. My poorly done review. Anyway, see, ATV Off-Road Fury and ATV Off-Road Fury 2. I still haven't picked up either of those games. I think I have the third one, though. I found that at a thrift store recently. Let's see. So I crossed out Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance. Great hack and slash RPG, even if it doesn't live up to the PC original, which I've never played anyway, so, it's the consoled-up version, but still a great series to look into. Battle Engine Aquila, which I think was also on the Xbox. I don't remember if it's on the GameCube as well. It's what do they call that mech genre where mechs can transform into like ships and go flying? I forget, some anime term or something, but you're basically a mech that you could transform into like an airplane or something on a giant battlefield and just blow a bunch of stuff up. Played demos of it, really liked it, but still have yet to pick it up. Now I X'd out Blood Omen 2 because I own it on the Xbox. Generally I don't double up if I don't have to, between Xbox or PS2 if I have it on one system, unless one version is like different, or I don't know. I generally figure if I have it on the Xbox, then maybe if I found it for $1 or something for the PS2 version, maybe, I don't know. But, let's see. Bloody Roar 3, I have yet to acquire. I crossed out Bombastic, which is the sequel to Devil Dice, but it actually adds more of an actual single-player, like, story campaign. It's actually really cool. If you should look into Bombastic, and it's actually cheaper to pick up than Devil Dice. Still has the crazy multiplayer mode, 5 players. Just it's insane, but it's a good game. You should look into it, and like I said, it's cheaper. Crossed out Breath of Fire 5, Dragon Quarter. I just had it as Breath of Fire 5 in this listing, so I'm guessing I don't even know if it was out yet, or if they had the final name, or if it was just announced. Let's see, Burnout 2 I haven't picked up, and obviously this was after Burnout 1, or after Burnout 2, but before Burnout 3, otherwise I would have had more on this list. Crossed out Castlevania Lament of Innocence, which I own, but Actually, still have yet to play very far into. Crossed out Champions of Norath, which another Snowblind Studios games runs on the Snowblind engine, which runs was it Baldur's Gate, Champions of Norath, what else? Fallout, Brotherhood of Steel, and runs like every hack and slash RPG of that generation. Pretty much runs on the Snowblind engine. But this one, because the original developer moved, they made Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance, but they lost the rights or something, or someone else took up for Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance 2, and so they made Champions of Norath, and that is a PS2 exclusive. And then they made Champions, what is it, Return to Arms? I own them both. But, alright. I crossed out Chaos Legion, which is another one that I found in a pretty much a paper CD sleeve at my local GameStop. Haven't played too far into it, but it was one of those obscure Capcom games that didn't get a lot of attention. Maybe you should look into it. Let's see. Crossed out Contra Shattered Soldier. I picked that one up. And, let's see. Dark Cloud 2, I still have yet to acquire. I have, what's the other one? Oh, Dark Cloud and... Shoot, I don't remember. Anyway, Dark Clouds 2 is the only one from that developer that I don't have. I forget. What was the other game? I own it. Rogue Galaxy. Rogue Galaxy I do own. Anyway. Let's see, I crossed out Defender. I always kind of wanted it, and you know, the more I play Midway's games that were released on the PS2, Xbox, and GameCube, the more I kind of think that Midway was one of the most underrated developers of that entire generation of games. I haven't really come across one of their games that I didn't really like and think that deserved a little bit more recognition. I mean, of course, you know, they had their Mortal Kombat bread and butter, but I actually appreciate a lot of their other games or lesser known ones, and it seems like every time I pick more up, just like, wow, Midway, you know, they put out some really good stuff, either developed or published in this generation of gaming. Just look into some of their stuff. I mean, I don't have all their games. I don't have the Suffering and the Suffering, the Tie That Binds, but even just some of their just wackier. What's the one I picked up recently? Dang it, oh, Freaky Flyers. I actually really enjoyed that game. It's kind of unique. That was another thrift store find recently, and I actually rather, you know, it surprised me. It was actually pretty good. It's like the flying mazes or the flying levels in Diddy Kong Racing, and then like a mixture of like car combat and Mario Kart. And it's actually a really coolly made game, from what I've played. And it's got a tough story mode, too. Let's see, where was I? Let's see, Defender, okay. Dino Stalker. Okay. Don't know why I put that in there. Disaster Report. Survival horror disaster game. I still haven't picked this one up. I have its sequel, or whatever. Raw Danger is its sequel, or the follow-up to it. Disagia, or Disagaea, Disagia, The Hour of Darkness, I crossed out. I own all the Disagaea, whatever you want to call it, games. I own all of them that are on the PS2, which is just 2, isn't it? I own both of them. I'm trying to remember, because I have the third one on the PS3, so... But yes, definitely... It's a series that's become way more popular in recent years than it was when it first hit. Let's see, Downhill Domination I crossed out. Yes, I did pick it up, and yes, I know, I suck at this game. According to all the comments on my Underrated Gem video, like I knew it was going to get that many hits. Otherwise, maybe I'd have done a couple more practice runs. But my point was just, you know, when I first started making those videos, was just to rush it out, you know, like... I had all these games, and I just, quick gameplay, quick description, put it out. Whether or not I'd fully played and experienced everything on them, you know, when you first get on YouTube, you're like addicted to uploading videos, even if it's kind of crappy, you know. But either way, I spotlighted the game to get other people to look at the game so they could put up skill runs. It always makes me kind of laugh when people are like, "You're terrible at this game," whenever my video says gameplay video or gameplay sample, not super wicked awesome skill run, dude. I'm the greatest gamer ever. But yeah, okay. So, yeah, the gameplay footage isn't the greatest. I didn't practice very much into it, but that is still an amazing game. You should look into Downhill Domination from Incog Studios. The guys who did Twisted Metal Black and War of the Monsters, which is probably in this list because, well, I still haven't picked it up, but that's for the W's. And this is in alphabetical order, obviously. Anyway, so I crossed out Draken, the Ancient City. I just have it as Draken here. That's a unique. It's a sequel to a PC game. Big open world RPGs, which were pretty rare for the PS2. It's not quite on the scale of Morrowind as far as interactivity, but it definitely has a lot of hack and slash elements, and then like big open world exploration and dragon flying. You should definitely look into Draken if you haven't. Look it up. I don't think I have any videos of it. I think I have a snippet on my underrated PS2 games montage video, but anyway. Dropship I crossed out. That's a tough game. I haven't played very far into it, but it didn't take very long for that game to kick my butt. It's got... I'd liken it to kind of like Smuggler's Run type thing, where it's just so difficult that you fail and fail and fail and fail until you finally beat the mission. It's like, ah! But, yes, Dropship... pretty cool game. I haven't played super duper far into it though, so maybe it'd just make me rage quit the whole time. So someday when I get a working PS2, I'll put some more playtime into it. Dual Hearts. What was Dual? I think Dual Hearts were they the team behind the second Alundra, or was it Dual Hearts? I crossed out. I own it, and it definitely has. It's kind of that feel like. Stylistically, it reminds me a lot of like Alundra 2 or Mega Man Legends or Tail Concerto, however you pronounce it. I always mispronounce everything, but I've played a little bit. It's another little RPG. It's kind of an action-adventure RPG, and I haven't gotten super duper far into it, but I do own it. Maybe someday I'll put some footage up if I ever get a working PS2 again. Anyway, see, Dynasty Tactics I crossed out, and Dynasty Tactics 2, I own both of them. Let's see, EOE, what is that, Eve of Extinction, I think. A beat-em-up game made by the guys who made the SmackDown series. I own it, I crossed it out, so it's kind of generic, middle-of-the-road type stuff, but I really wanted it for the time because I was a huge beat-em-up fan, and being deprived of a lot of really good ones on the PS1 because the PS1 didn't have, you had what, Fighting Force, and then like Gekaido, and then you had like beat 'em up adventure games like Xena or Taifu, Wrath of the Tiger, which is surprisingly overpriced, even though I want it, but maybe that's why it costs so much, because I want it anyway. Crossed out Echo the Dolphin, the PS2 version. I think I'll get the Dreamcast version someday too. Yeah, the Echo series, even in 3D, has always been kind of one of those. It's not everyone's cup of tea. I'm not even sure if it's my cup of tea, but I mean, I like it, but still, whether it be the 2D versions or the 3D version, definitely not for everyone. I crossed out Endgame, a generic light gun game for the PS2, but not a bad one overall. Pretty much a Time Crisis ripoff, but not horrible by any means. See, crossed out Escape from Monkey Island. I own it. You know, adventure game, not action. Adventure game, LucasArts, classic series, long-running series. See, crossed out Eternal Ring. I always loved the Kingsfield series, so I really wanted to play Eternal Ring, and it got abysmal reviews, but I don't care. Still It's From Software, so it's one of those From's games were always panned critically because people just didn't really get them, and it wasn't like they weren't trendy or popular at the time. But I liked Eternal Ring. See, Extermination I crossed out. One of Sony's earlier survival horror games. See, Fatal Frame I still haven't picked up. Fighter Maker 2, I own the original. I don't even know why I put Fighter Maker 2 on here. Now, if it was RPG Maker 2 or something, that would be understandable. Final Fantasy X I crossed out. Apparently I didn't have it at this time. That's weird. Crossed out Freedom Fighters, own it. Crossed out Freak Style, recently picked that up for cheapy. Crossed out Frequency. Harmonics, like I said, about same thing with Amplitude. Crossed out Fur Fighters, which was originally released on the Dreamcast, but the PS2 version got some changes to it. I don't know what the whole... I need to get the Dreamcast version. I own the PS2 version, which they added cell shading and some other things. I'll have to see what the difference is. Gauntlet Dark Legacy, finally picked that up about 2011, despite wanting it since it released, so 11 years to finally pick that up. Gradius 3 and 4 I crossed out because I found those. Let me see. Gradius 5. I believe Treasure. Didn't Treasure develop this for Konami, Gradius 5? Anyway, there's not a lot... People don't really spotlight a lot of the PS2 shoot-em-ups. You hear a lot about PS1 and Saturn and, you know, Genesis and all these shoot-em-ups, but the PS2 had spectacular shoot-em-ups that a lot of people don't really... I haven't seen covered a lot. I guess I've covered them a little bit, but it seems like my PS2 shoot-em-up videos are like some of the least watched in my playlist of underrated PS2 gems. Gran Turismo 4 I crossed out. Even though I'm not big on simulation racers, I haven't played one since Gran Turismo 3, really. And that came with my PS2 I got Christmas 2001, and then played it for a while, and then haven't really played simulation racers since. Let's see. Grandia Extreme. Love the Grandia series. Wanted to pick up Extreme. Let's see, crossed out GTC Africa. Didn't they make a new GTC game sometime? I don't know. It's kind of weird because it wasn't like super popular anyways. See, crossed out Guilty Gear X, crossed out Guilty Gear X2, two great 2D fighters. Look into them. I think X2 was on the Xbox as well. I don't know if X was. Let's see, I crossed out the GunCon 2 Light Gun because I picked it up. Apparently I was putting accessories on this. Crossed out Gun Griffin Blaze, launcher, like early launcher within sight of launch game. Gun Griffin series. I own the original on the Saturn. Unique, but the controls are reversed. They'll throw you off. See, I crossed out Headhunter, which never came to the US American Dreamcast. So I wanted it on the PS2. Kind of a weird game from what I've played of it. I crossed out Hot Shots Golf 3 and 4, which I own. I love the Hot Shots Golf series, even though I haven't really played either of them on the PS2. I played the original. I don't have Hot Shots Golf 2 on the PS1, though. Crossed out Eco or Ico. Crossed out Jade Cocoon 2. Totally not as cool as the original from what I've played of it, but whatever. Crossed out Jak and Daxter. Crossed out Jak 2. And Jak 3 isn't on this list. It's a write-in. I put it at the bottom of the page. But, so this was before Jak 3 released. This is when I made this list. So, crossed out... Oh, no, I didn't cross out. I still have yet to pick up Kengo 2. I have the original. Someone asked me recently which one was better, the first one or Kengo 2, and I can't really answer. Kengo 3, though, I played that. Do I own that? It's on the 360 or something. Totally not. I don't know. I didn't like it as much, but then again, maybe I need to go back and give it another chance. Crossed out Kessen 2. Dynasty Warrior Tactic game. Well, it's an Atlas. Yeah, Atlas. No. Not Atlas. What the heck am I thinking? Koei. Or however you pronounce them. Koei strategy game. Let's see. Crossed out Kinetica, futuristic racer. Honestly, it's kind of weird. The PS2 didn't really have a. Well, I guess they had Wipeout Fusion, and I rented that game back in the day, but I don't remember much about it, and I still have yet to pick it up. But it seems like this was the generation where a PlayStation console didn't have a like quintessential Wipeout game that was like spectacular or anything. So, but Kinetica, the same Santa Monica Studios that made God of War. So the road to Sparta traveled through Kinetica because it's using the same graphics engine as God of War, but it's also a pretty spectacular, if not a really incredibly tough futuristic racer in its own right. Look it up, I have videos of it. Crossed out Kingdom Hearts, I own it. Crossed out Kingsfield the Ancient City. This was another cheapy find I found at my local GameStop. Don't ask me how, of all the games they had Kingsfield the Ancient City there. But that one came in a generic case too, or a little plastic CD case. I love getting the book and the box with it, but in the end, whenever it's a game that you don't see around much anyways, I'm not gonna be a snob and be like, oh no, I won't pay $2 for that because it doesn't have a case or a game. It's like, no, I want to play the game, I'll find a better case, and you can always find people who sell the artwork online if I ever become so anal about my collecting. But honestly, I'd rather own the games and play the games. Box and book are a plus though, but not a requirement. Let's see, where was I? Klonoa 2 I crossed out. Sequel to Klonoa. Great game. Let's see. I X'd out Legacy of Kain Defiance because I have it on the Xbox, but my Xbox version is messed up and scratched and just freezes up and quits on me at random, so I'll pick it up for whichever system I find it on again. So I will un-X that. Let's see, Lethal Skies 2. I don't remember much about that game. See, I X'd out Mafia. I own it on the Xbox. The first one is pretty bare bones. I know it's become more popular since they made Mafia 2 and all that, but the original Mafia is definitely kind of bare bones when compared to even Grand Theft Auto 3. Let's see, Manhunt I haven't picked up. Maximo vs. the Army of Zin I crossed out, I own. Mega Man X7, I'm not sure why I put that on there. Maybe I like Mega Man, but X7 of all things. Metal Gear Solid 2 Substance. Have not picked up Substance. I own Metal Gear Solid 2. That was one of the games that we bought the PS2 for. Metal Gear Solid 2, and then we found out that you play through most of the game as Raiden, and yeah, not a lot of people like that. See, I crossed out Metal Gear Solid 3, and I didn't put Metal Gear Solid 3 Subsistence on here because it obviously hadn't released yet or wasn't even announced. Like I said, I think some of these games were just being announced or previewed whenever I put them on as once. Crossed out Mr. Mosquito. That's an odd game. I have a video up of it if you want to go see what it plays like. Mobile Suit Gundam Federation vs. Zeon I put on here. I crossed out Mobile Suit Gundam Zeonic Front because I own it and played it a little. Definitely not for everyone. Crossed out Monster Rancher 3 I own. Didn't cross out Monster Rancher 4 because I don't own. See, crossed out Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance. I own that, and one of the other two either on the PS2. I own one on the Xbox as well. I don't remember which one. It's one of those series that I always forget which one was the second and the third. But I always remember that Deadly Alliance was obviously the first, rebooted Mortal Kombat for the system. For some reason I put MotoGP, MotoGP 2, and MotoGP 3 on here, despite the fact that I'm not huge into simulation racers, but don't ask me why. Crossed out Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2. Awesome arcade racing game. Definitely comes highly recommended. I know the later Need for Speed series got more popular, but Hot Pursuit 2 still an awesome game. Even post even post the newer games. I don't even can't even think of them off the top of me head. Let's see. Crossed out Okage. Pretty standard RPG, pretty bland by most people's standards, but I really like uh, the funny commentary, the funny. Oh man, I can't even think right now. The funny story and Stan, the evil King Stan, the funny dialogue. There we go, dialogue. Anyway, see, I X'd out Onimusha because I owned Gemma Onimusha on the Xbox, but I also own Onimusha on the PS2 as well. Crossed out Onimusha 2 because I own it. I put PTO 4 on here, Pacific Theater of Operations. That's another Koei strategy game, long-running series. See, Pac-Man World 2 I put on here, but I might... Actually, I'll still pick up the PS2 version, but didn't they release the GameCube version with an extra Pac-Man verse game? And actually, I should probably get that one instead, or both, either or. Crossed out Primal. Primal, great game. Not for everyone because it's very puzzle heavy, and its action and fighting isn't the most exciting, especially after God of War. But I really dig the dark atmosphere, and it's from the team behind Medieval, or Medieval as they call it. See, crossed out Ratchet and Clank because I own it. Crossed out Ratchet and Clank 2 going Commando. Then 3, then Deadlock. I crossed them all out. I own them all, but I've only really put a lot of playtime into the original Ratchet and Clank, and not so much the sequels. Pretty much played the first one, and then the next one I played was Ratchet and Clank Future Tools of Destruction on the PS3. So I skipped, for some reason, well, I just never got around to picking up, the second and third games in the series, and so I skipped that, but then I went back and got the second and third ones. Anyway. So I crossed out Rez, Panzer Dragoon, with a crazy lighting show and music. Rez has become more popular in hindsight, and they have it downloadable on various services now, if you want to get your hands on it. Supposedly the Dreamcast version runs better, but it never came to America, so it's Japanese. And is it European import? Maybe you European Dreamcast gamers can tell me. So I crossed out Ridge Racer 5. I own it. Launch game. Ridge Racer doesn't have the prominence it used to, as far as it kind of just faded. But this was following up Ridge Racer 4, so Ridge Racer was really hot at the time whenever the PS2 launched, and then just kind of fizzled slowly, and people stopped. I guess they just didn't. I don't know. I haven't played anything past Ridge Racer 5, so I don't know if the series is tanked in quality or if it was just gamers' taste had changed to a different kind of racing game. Crossed out Ring of Red. Strategy game. Kind of a weird, obscure one. I remember the biggest complaint was that the game was just like overload too much and kind of burnt gamers out. There's like too much for this strategy game. Don't ask me what that means. I haven't really played too far into it, but I'm guessing it was slow plotting, and from what I remember of the reviews, but I still always wanted to play it. Definitely an underrated game if you want to look into it. See, I crossed out Robotech Battle Cry. Even though I own it, I haven't played much of it. There was one or two other Robotech games. I'll have to jog my memory. It's amazing how much I'm starting to forget. Anyway, see, crossed out Romance of the Three Kingdoms 8. I own it. It's another Koei. That's a long-running Koei series, long before Dynasty Warriors, in fact. It was the original Dynasty Warriors was a two-player fighting game, one-on-one fighting, and it was kind of Romance of the Three Kingdoms, the fighting game. And then Dynasty Warriors 2 came out and was a giant, huge, large field beat 'em up, and the rest is history. Let's see, RPG Maker 2 I still have on here. I don't know if it uses the USB mouse port or USB keyboard port. Hopefully. because the original is really clunky in making text with just a PS1 controller. But RPG Maker series, people have done some amazingly crazy stuff with the PS1 version. So I don't even know if the PS2 version ever came to America. I just had it on here though. Let's see. I crossed out Shadow Man 2 because I own it, even though I still haven't played the original. You know, that's one of the comments I get on my Shadow Man 2 video is, this one sucks, the first one was better. Well, it's like, well, I still haven't played the original, which I need to. See, I crossed out Shinobi, I own it. I didn't cross out Shocks. Now, I know that I had recently played a demo of Shocks, which was... sorry. A demo of Shocks off of a official PlayStation Magazine demo disc, and I really liked the game, even though I don't remember a whole lot about it except your compadre in the car would always yell at you and be like, "You'll wreck the eating car! You'll wreck the eating car!" Because I'd hit everything. But I remember liking the game, so I put it on here. This was before it released, I think. So I crossed out Silent Hill 2, I own it. But I've still yet to pick up Silent Hill 3. Don't ask me why. And now, of course, since it's Silent Hill, it's probably skyrocketing in price as we speak. Even though I know they released an HD remake of it on the PS3 and other systems, I think. So, crossed out Silent Scope 1. I own it. Who needs a gun controller when you can use a USB mouse? That's one of the unofficial USB mouse supporting PS2 games, and it's a lot easier with the mouse than with the controller. They didn't have a control attachment. I know the Xbox version had this really cool sniper rifle attachment. It's like a light gun that turned into a sniper rifle. So one of these days I'm going to pick up that whole setup for the original Xbox because it's more like the arcade version. Let's see, Silent Scope 2, Silent Scope 3, I don't own. Sky Gunner, I crossed out. That's a really awesome, underrated game, flight game, and its art style reminds me also of Mega Man Legends and Tail Concerto, and just that uniquely anime art style, kind of a rail shooter, a little bit of mixture of Free Flight and then rail shooter. Definitely a niche title, and more people should look into it. See, I crossed out Sled Storm, I own it. It's kind of interesting that this one's called Sled Storm whenever there was a PS1 game, Sled Storm, released that was also pretty good, and this is the EA Sports big version. Sorry, my big version, or however they used to say it. Either way, I just did a horrible impression. Let's see. So I crossed out Sly Cooper, and then 2, and I don't own the third one, so I own both the first 2 Sly Cooper games. Crossed out SOCOM, because I own it. Crossed out SOCOM 2, because I own it. Stupid headset just fell off my head. For some reason or the other. Anyway. Where was I? Alright, crossed off Soul Reaver 2, because I own it. Totally not as good as the original. I didn't like the combat in Soul Reaver 2 as much. It didn't feel as cool. Basically, you just got your butt kicked most of the time. So yeah, crossed out Space Channel 5 Special Edition. You get both Space Channel 5 games in one set. I think it's still 2 discs. I'll have to go back and check, but yeah. You get ports of the Dreamcast Space Channel 5 games, and it was cheapy. And I don't know if it's still cheap or not. Let's see. SSX3 I still have not picked up, and I wrote in and for I haven't played any SSX games past Tricky, which I know I should, but because I know that they're still pretty amazing irregardless. It's like I kind of lost interest after Tricky. Even though I loved Tricky, I played the crap out of Tricky. Let's see. Crossed out Star Wars Episode 1 Racer Revenge, kind of a sequel to the N64 and Dreamcast version, and I think it was also on the PC. Made some changes though. Fans probably aren't huge fans of it. from the changes it made, or maybe you don't even know that they made a sequel to Episode 1 Racer. Well, they did, and it's on the PS2, and I have a video up of it if you want to check it out. See, Star Wars Jedi Starfighter. This is a sequel. That's the second one. I still haven't picked that up. Another space flight. Yeah, like I said, I didn't, for some reason, outside of Rogue Leader, I didn't play a lot of space flight games, or air flight games during that entire generation of gaming. See, I crossed out Star Wars Starfighter because I have Special Edition on the Xbox, but, you know, maybe one day I'll pick it up for the PS2, just because. Crossed out Street Fighter EX3 launch game. Definitely not the best fighter at launch. Mixed reviews. Some people like it, but it wasn't that spectacular. But the EX series was never like the huge bread and butter, and should have given us a Rival Schools instead. Crossed out Sub Rebellion. I own it. I have a video up if you want to see what that one's all about. Crossed out Summoner and Summoner 2. Summoner was a launch game. Summoner 2 was the sequel, and also on the GameCube as Summoner a Goddess Reborns, which is Reborns, adding S's to things. Summoner a Goddess Reborn on the GameCube is Summoner 2, like an expanded version. I don't know what all the changes are. I'll pick it up one of these days. See, crossed out Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I think the main reason I wanted that was because the arcade version is in there. Crossed out Tenchu Wrath of Heaven. Tenchu is one of those series that was really popular on the PS1, but PS2 and beyond, it just kind of faded off into being more obscure, more niche, even though they still make them, I think. They're still making them. I think I played a demo of one for like the Wii recently, or don't ask me how, but long-running series. See, I crossed out Tennis 2K2. I own it, and I also have it on the Dreamcast as well. The Virtua Tennis series is addictive and will pull you in, and you will not escape its grip. But I know a tennis game sounds pretty boring, but we've all played really addictive tennis games, and if not, then the Virtua Tennis, Tennis 2K2, Tennis... Did they ever... Very addictive tennis games. See, I crossed out The Sims, like X'd it out, like I don't want it anymore, but I think I have that on the GameCube. But I don't have... Well, I guess I do now have a bigger memory card for the GameCube, but it would never run... You know, and the only big memory card I had for the longest time for the GameCube was for my Animal Crossing game, and I wasn't about to delete Animal Crossing for The Sims. See, Time Crisis 2, Time Crisis 3, I haven't picked up, even though I own Time Crisis Crisis Zone. Since I own a GunCon 2, it may as well, that's kind of a no-brainer to pick up the Time Crisis games. Crossed out Tokyo Extreme Racer 0, which is basically Tokyo Extreme Racer 2 with some expanded things, extra modes or something. I'd have to go back and look it up and see what the difference was. Crossed out Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4 because my friend gave that to me for the GameCube, and now that I think about it, I haven't seen my copy for a while. Need to go look and see. That's interesting. I'll find it. Or maybe I lost it moving somewhere, I don't know. See, I crossed out Unlimited Saga. Yes, I put that on there as a want. Yes, that is an obscure RPG that most people hate. It's part of the Saga. Do you remember? Was it Saga Frontier 1 and 2 on the PS1? Well, it's that series, but it is a very strange RPG and definitely not for everyone. I can see from what little I played of it why a lot of people hated it. Let's see. Finally picked up Virtua Fighter 4 Evolution. I picked up Virtua Fighter 4 like when it first came out, brand new in the store, $50 purchase. I had to have it. In between, somewhere along the lines, I picked up a Saturn and Virtua Fighter 2, and I loved the Virtua Fighter series. I came to appreciate it, and so by the time 4 was announced, for some reason I still haven't picked up 3TB on Tag Battle. Not Crab Battle, but Tag Battle on the Dreamcast yet. But I picked up Virtua Fighter 4, like, if it wasn't launch day, it was pretty close. But I never picked up Evolution, even though it was a cheapie. Wasn't it like 20 bucks new, or it came down to 20 bucks? It was 30. It was reduced price, but I recently picked it up. But I haven't played it much since I got it. I played the crap out of the original Virtua Fighter 4 though, so I'll get back around to Evolution. It's like Virtua Fighter 5 on the PS3, which I've owned for years and have barely played either. I'll come back around to fighting games though. Let's see, Virtual on Mars I own. That game did not review very well, and I haven't played it too far into it. I love the Virtual On series, or Virtual On. It's the only Sega game, Virtua game, that has an L in it. Otherwise, it's gotta be Virtua. I don't know. Anyways, big giant mech combat arcade fighting game. From starting on the Saturn, I own Virtua On, and then I own the Dreamcast I don't know. OT, Virtua On OT. I can never pronounce that right, anyways. But big fan of the series, even though I'm terrible at it. So I picked up Virtual on Mars, even though, yes, it's supposedly terrible, and I haven't played too far into it to see if it was overstated or if it was just the mainstream gaming magazine reviewers that were, full of themselves and their stupid opinions. War of the Monsters I still have not picked up, despite the fact that I have wanted this game since before it came out. Just playing a demo disc of War of the Monsters, I totally want this game, still to this day, but for some reason I have still yet to pick it up. Big giant monsters destroying a city and fighting each other? Awesome sauce, man. There's other games in that generation that came out, like Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee, but War of the Monsters, Incognito Studios, the guys who made Twisted Metal Black and Twisted Metal Black Online and Downhill Domination and so many other cool games. Warhawk on the PS3 before, well, I think they died though. Or they got absorbed by Sony, or I don't know exactly what their fate was. I suppose I could always check on Wikipedia, because Wikipedia is always accurate. Let's see. Crossed out Winback, I own it. Remake of the N64 game, upgraded graphics. I don't know what all the changes are. Actually, I should probably pick up the original on the N64 too. That was kind of... I remember it was touted as the N64's answers to Metal Gear Solid, even though it's kind of more like a Siphon Filter type, even though it's not quite as good as Siphon Filter either. Decent game though. Clunky controls, especially if you're used to the more modern duck and cover Gears of War type mechanics. You probably may not like it. And I have the sequel, but I haven't played it much. I don't even know if I've ever booted it up. Put in Winning 11-6, which is weird for me because I don't really like soccer or sports games. Well, I don't like sports games, and I don't know why I put a soccer game on here. Maybe because at the time it was like getting touted as something special, or maybe because the series, I don't know if it ever came to America, maybe that's what it was. But, it was touted as like that elitist thing, like the best soccer game, which never comes to America. And I don't know why I put it on here, though. I got a friend who would have loved it, though, or I think he did buy it, or one of them. Dang. Kind of a warm day, my throat's drying out. What do you expect? I live in Arizona. So, Wipeout Fusion. So I did put Fusion on this list, even though I rented it and don't remember much about it, but I'm still gonna give it a chance. This one didn't review that well. It got panned. I don't remember if it had a bunch of glitches they didn't like, or if they just didn't like it that much. I think it was a different developer too, so that's always not a plus. I don't know if Psygnosis was even around at this time, or if they'd been absorbed by Sony, or if they were something else. So World Rally Championship was another one that I have crossed out because I own it. So I own GTC, Africa, and World Rally Championship. Haven't played a lot of World Rally Championship, I just remember it has absurdly long load times. See, Xenosaga 1 and 2, I have yet to pick up. And I'm sure weren't there more in that series, I don't remember. Again, I kind of fell out of RPGs during that period, even though I did pick up the ones I could, because they always... If there's one game genre that is sure to always hold its value, it is RPGs. Let's see, I crossed out Zone of the Enders because I own it. Yes, I know, it was the most expensive demo disc. Yes, everyone pretty much bought it because it had a demo disc of Metal Gear Solid 2, and everyone was frothing at the mouth, or foaming at the mouth over Metal Gear Solid 2 at the time. So any chance to play the demo, they did it, and that is weird. My copy that I own actually has the Metal Gear Solid 2 demo in it, with it, so I kind of scored because I got it used somewhere. But the actual game itself is actually still a pretty... It's actually a really good game, but... Then I have the final one on the list, Zone of the Enders 2, which I have not picked up yet. And I'm sure is better than the original, and unique art style, and yeah, I still haven't picked it up. Don't know if I want to pay for it, but I don't know. Maybe it's gone down in price. I haven't checked on it in a while. But anyway, so that's where I was at as of 2003 in my PS2 Game Want-Lists. Obviously, if I remade this list, I'd have so many more, so many more wants on the list, because the system lived what? I mean, when did they quit making it? Still had 7-8 more years worth of gaming to it, and my list would probably be massive, despite the fact that I own over 400 games for the system as it is. There's always those ones more. One more game. Oh, this game. You always find new things and be like, whoa, I want that game. Watch a YouTube video, like someone covering underrated gems, huh? But anyway, so that's where I was at as of 2003 in my PS2 want list, and if I ever update it, I'll update you on my updates of a list that I'm planning on updating. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm talking about right now. Anyways, 2D Gamer signing out. And like I said, please don't make fun of me for some of the games on the list. Maybe I hadn't played them and just didn't know better.